We are all familiar with the story of Samuel and his mother Hannah, and we recognize Hannah as a great example of faith. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, we learn about Hannah and her husband Elkanah and the fact that they did not have any children together. This was obviously very upsetting to Hannah, and in verse 10 it states, Hannah was in deep anguish, crying bitterly as she prayed to the Lord, and she made a vow. She promised God that if he would give her a son, she would give him back to God, and she said, he will be yours for his entire lifetime. And as a sign that he has been dedicated to the Lord, his hair will never be cut. Within the next year, Hannah had a child, a son, that she named Samuel. When her husband Elkanah and his family went on their annual trip to offer a sacrifice to the Lord, Hannah did not go. She told her husband, wait until the boy is weaned. Then I will take him to the tabernacle and leave him there with the Lord permanently. Hannah's faith was in the Lord. She made a promise to God and trusted that God would answer her prayers. When Samuel was old enough to wean, Hannah kept her promise and gave her son Samuel to the Lord, saying, I asked the Lord to give me this boy, and he has granted my request. Now I am giving him to the Lord, and he will belong to the Lord his whole life. Again, Hannah demonstrated her faith, entrusting her only son to her God. No one is moved to action without faith. Prayer plus action equals faith. It is through our deeds that faith is demonstrated. As the Apostle Paul tells us, we are saved by grace. Nothing we can do will merit salvation. But as James points out in James chapter 2, our sanctification is seen by the deeds that we do. Just because one says, I believe in God, does not justify him or her. God wants more than just lip service. We are to live a life of holiness. Our faith has to involve more than just going through the motions. Our actions have to reflect our faith. Belief must be proved by acts of righteousness. Those actions do not have to be grand gestures. Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 10 that the little things can lead to big rewards, saying, and if you give even a cup of cold water to one of the least of my followers, you will surely be rewarded. And again in Matthew 25, Jesus says, for I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. Then these righteous ones will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will say, I tell you the truth. When you did to one of the least of my followers, my brothers and sisters, you are doing it to me. Again, in the book of James, he tells us, pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress, and refusing to let the world corrupt you. Righteousness is the act of doing what God wants. Like Samuel was a gift to Hannah, everything we have is a gift from God, and we have to be willing to share. Even when we are at our lowest points and we cannot see the outcome, we have faith that God works, that God is faithful to keep his word, and that God will provide what it is we are in need of. God wants to work in our lives. He's in control, but will you let him work? Therefore, let's demonstrate our faith by our actions. Let others see God because of what we do. So brothers and sisters, let us use our faith and God's gifts to go out and share his word and bring others to Christ.